Yeah, these boats, when we were kids, they were our sailing boats, they were our fishing boats, they were our submarines, they were our battleships. I mean, they were, all that stuff that we did as a kid. I mean, it was
totally
a lot of fun.
Welcome to the Passages from the Heart podcast, a podcast made by an everyday sailor for everyday sailors. We talk everything from day sailing to racing to cruising to camping out on your boat and everything in between. It's time now to raise the sails.
All right. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of the Passages from the Heart podcast. And my very first guest is a good friend of mine, a Com-Pac aficionado. Well, I'm really excited to do this. And I know you have a wealth of knowledge that you can share with other people who are not only interested in sailing, but in Com-Pac specifically. But before we jump into the whole Com-Pac part of the conversation, I first wanted to ask you to share your origin sailing story. So how you came to become a sailor in your life.
Oh gosh, started when I was a kid. My dad and I and my brother built a sunfish. And we had a house. My parents had a cabin on a lake in New Jersey, and we built the sunfish and went sailing on that and had a great time. And then, as I got older and got into the real world, didn't sail for many, many years, and then about 5 years ago or so, I decided I wanted to get back into sailing, and so I bought the Com-Pac 16. And my partner at the time, she said, "Well, you can waste your money on anything you want," and it turns out that we've both enjoyed it very much. So that's how it started. It went from a 16 to a 19 to a 23 to a Sun Cat.
Okay, and so let me ask you, getting back to the Com-Pac 16, when you decided to get into sailing again later in your life after your sunfish experience, what is it that you were looking for specifically, and what brought you to finding a Com-Pac and the Com-Pac 16 specifically?
Oh, and actually, let me go backwards. After college, I did buy a Hobie Cat. And had a lot of fun on that.
Right on.
So
cool.
And then I moved to Colorado, and I asked if there was anybody doing any sailing here, and everybody said no. So I sold the Hobie Cat, and but then I found out there is sailing here. So anyway, the Com-Pac 16, I read a book. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember the name of the book, but it was a book on trailer sailing, and it featured a Com-Pac 16 and talked about all this really cool stuff you could do on a Com-Pac 16 and the quality of the 16. And so that's what got me interested in a Com-Pac sailboat.
Okay, so when you did get your Com-Pac 16, were you primarily just trailer sailing to different lakes, or was there one lake that you were sailing at primarily?
Primarily here in Southwest Colorado, we have one lake that I guess I sail on more than anything else. We actually have 3 lakes here, but the one lake that I used to sail on, is the one that I enjoy the most.
Right. Okay. So do you typically, if I remember just from our own conversations we've had, I don't think you really didn't overnight a whole lot on that boat, or did you do some actual camping on it?
I did overnight in it, but it was in my garage.
Oh, so not actually on the water.
Never overnighted in the water. Just I planned on it, and again, after reading the trailer sailing book, I had all these ideas about staying out on it, but never did. But sleeping in it in my garage when I was kind of checking it out, it was quite comfortable. I mean, I'm 6'2", and it was no problem. But just never got around to overnighting on it. Okay,
and on that boat, let's talk a little bit about how, because I, as you know, had a Com-Pac Legacy, and you and I would compare notes sometimes on how the Legacy sailed, and you would talk to me about how your 16 sailed. And I'm just curious, since you've had so many different Com-Pacs, as far as the Com-Pac 16, and the sailing conditions that you have at the lake where you are primarily, I'd be curious, like what sort of sail plan did you typically have? Did you find that the boat was real stable, tippy? I think those sorts of things are questions that people often wonder about the smaller sailing vessels, because often they're kind of not so stable. And in my experience with my Com-Pac Legacy, I found that I feel it was a very stable boat for its size. How would you say with your 16?
I was really surprised. I would say it was very stable. I never felt unsafe at all. And it's amazing how when the wind came up, it would kind of stiffen up, if you know what I mean. And it wouldn't, I had a couple of times where when I first started sailing the 16, I have to admit, it scared the heck out of me, because I get these big, huge winds and it would start going over. But as it started going over, it'd feel like it stabilized, and it didn't go over. So I felt like it was a very safe, comfortable boat.
Okay. And then I wanted to point out to our listeners that one of the differences between the 16 and the Legacy is, if I remember correctly, is that the 16 actually does not have a centerboard, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Which the Legacy does. And I think, having never sailed a 16, I can't say for sure, but one of the things I've been told by other people comparing those two boats together is that I've heard that because of the centerboard, the Legacy can maybe point a little bit higher. I don't know if that's fact or fiction or not, but I just would share that as something in case people are wondering why does a centerboard make a difference? And then speaking of that, brings me to the Com-Pac 19, because I want to say that boat does have a centerboard, or maybe I'm wrong.
My 19 did not. The later 19s did have a centerboard. And as far as the centerboard on the 16th, I don't know, maybe I'm a novice sailor, but I never seemed to have any problem with it pointing or anything like that. So, I know they say, like, the Montgomery 15, which is the comparable boat, is faster and points better and all that, but I don't know. I mean, all I can tell you is I thought the 16 was great, and I got to go wherever I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So, and the same thing with the 19.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing I just remembered, we have a forum member that we both know who he actually at one point was looking to buy a Com-Pac 16. And I remember that there were, I think it was either the initials C as in cat, B as in boy, or maybe it was XL. But I think later models of the 16 did actually also have a centerboard too. I think
that's true. That's true. No, that's yes, my understanding. Okay. But they're pretty rare.
What year was yours, by the way?
85, I believe.
Okay. All right. And then as far as the sails that you had on board, like my Legacy came with what they call a lapper jib, but on your boat, do you remember what kind of jib or head sail that you had on that 16, out of curiosity?
I don't. It did pass the stay a little bit, not very much. And I really lucked out with this 16. I mean, the boat was really, really in great shape, and the sails were like brand new when I got it. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and very, very crisp. And matter of fact, I had 2 sets of sails with it. I guess the person that had it before I did bought a brand new sail just before I bought it. So, actually, the old sail is still hanging in my garage.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For decoration.
Wow. Well, when you took that boat out, let's talk about how easily it was trailered, launched, and also rigged. How long would you say it would take you to, I mean, once you get to the facility and you're ready to back down, how long would it take you?
As I think I've told you, Suzanne says that I fiddle when I put the boat together, but realistically about half hour, I'd say. Maybe 45 minutes at the very worst.
Okay.
The mast you can raise basically with one hand. It was very, very easy to rig.
Okay.
So it really didn't take that long at all. So
okay. And then also
very doable as a trailer sailor.
Okay. And then as far as when you're done sailing, getting it out of the water and, unstepping the mast and all that, same sort of ease.
Yeah. With that boat though, our launch ramp here was very shallow. And so
Okay.
I did put an extension on the trailer to put it into the
Oh,
water further to let it just float off. But yeah,
okay.
it was a piece of cake. I mean, it was very, very easy. I had a Honda 2.3 motor on it, which was more than enough for that boat.
Yeah, that was my next question. I was going to ask you about propulsion. Like I think with my Legacy, I had, what did I have? A 3.5 horsepower.
Yeah.
And on those engines, I'm assuming yours didn't have reverse either, right?
Correct. Correct. And people criticize that, but I don't know. Once I got used to it, then the bigger boat that I had reverse. And I found that to be more of a hassle to use than the Honda, where you just turn it around,
Spin it around.
you spin it around, go backwards out of the dock. When you get a little bit away from the dock, spin it around, go forward, and you're ready to go. So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it can get easier than that, but that's me.
Okay, so since these boats are no longer in production and the Legacy is what has replaced the Com-Pac 16, a lot of people just getting into sailing, getting into the sport, in other words. And if they're looking for a trailer sailor, this is definitely a boat you could do a little bit of overnighting on.
Absolutely.
There's room for a porta potty. If you have you could probably hook up maybe like a jet boil or something. I don't remember if on the 16, I want to say there was no push pit or anything, whereas on the Legacy there is what they call a stern arch. So if you wanted to attach a barbecue grill or something like that, so it sounds like it's a boat that people could do some like weekending on, I guess is what I'm driving at.
Yeah, I would say if you ever did any backpacking in your life and slept in a tent, it would seem very familiar, if not better.
Okay.
But basically, like sleeping in a backpack tent.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone's looking for one of these boats, and because they're older boats, what would you tell them? Words of caution about what to look for, things that maybe you wished your boat had it but didn't have. What sorts of things would you recommend that people keep an eye on with those 16s?
I can't say there's anything that I wish I had that I didn't have on that boat. You just have to look at the overall condition, hull cracks, major where it's been hit. I like to buy boats without the bottom paint so you can see the bottom. I guess, and I may get in trouble for saying this, but I often looked at the wood. I feel like if people are going to take care of the wood, that they've taken care of the rest of the boat. And then look for any rot inside. A lot of times you'll see rot inside of the wood that's inside the boat. So you're looking for rot. Trying to think if there's anything else. That's about it. Just just general condition. You can tell. You see a lot of 16s that are real junkers out there that people just haven't taken care of, and so I would stay away from those. Now I did have to say I paid probably a premium for mine. I think I paid like $4,500 for it, which from what I've seen of Com-Pac 16s is a premium. But I think it's worth paying a little extra to get something better than to pay less and then have to. I like to go sailing, so I'd rather be sailing than fixing up a boat. So
doing a fixer upper. Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Right. And a lot of times I'll see people buy the fixer uppers and frankly, they never get them fixed up and then they never get to go sailing. So and that's what it's all about, is going sailing. So
yeah, well, I can speak to that, but we'll get to the 23 in a little bit. So this sounds like the 16 is, I was actually tempted to get one myself, as you know, rather recently. They're great boats. They can be an economical sort of way for someone to get into the sport, also to not only do some sailing, but a little, like you said, camping in a way in a tent, but only on a boat.
And they will easily fit in your garage.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think to. Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that is a big thing for some people. They want to be able to store it indoors.
I rented a storage shed and it only had, I think the door was not even 7 feet and the boat went right in. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I think people wonder how tall, like I was saying, the boat is on the trailer. So that's good to know that. One thing I will make mention of, and I think you and I talked about this a week or so ago when I was looking at a 16, is that this particular boat had been modified by having the compression post removed in order to open the boat or the inside of the cabinet more. And it had been outfitted with bulkheads, port and starboard, and then up on the overhead as well. And I think I had asked your opinion. Do you think that that's a good idea to look for, if a boat has that, is that a good idea to pursue it? And I think you said.
I think that, I tend to look for boats that haven't been molested.
Yeah.
And so if it's been changed at all, I mean, the designer of the boat had a specific reason for doing what he or she did. And so to change that, that would make me a little suspect. And so I would not buy a boat that was changed in any way. If I'm going to buy a sailboat, it's got to be all original.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And I'm glad that I talked to you about that, because I was, as you know, leaning pretty heavily towards getting that boat, but I was concerned about that, especially that sort of a modification, because that's a pretty major one.
The other thing you said later was it was painted, and paint can cover a lot of flaws.
Which I didn't know that initially. I hadn't been told. And this was a boat that I was going to buy sight unseen. So, which is always a dangerous thing to do, by the way, but risky, let's put it that way. But so that's go ahead.
I wouldn't buy a painted boat.
Yeah. Yep. And I agree. I wouldn't probably buy a boat where the compression post has been removed, because that's a pretty vital part of the boat.
When you look at the forces of the wind and everything on that mast and everything, I wouldn't mess with that.
Moving on to the 19. This is a boat that I think has kind of enamored me. And as you know, I've been interested in it myself over the past few years, off and on, because it is a boat that offers you a lot more room, actually, in just the 3 feet extra that it gives you. So what made you decide that, hey, I'm thinking this 19 is the way I'd rather go? And what made you decide to kind of get into the 19?
We a lot of us tend to get this disease when we buy a boat. It's called two-footitis. And so, I got the 16. It was a lot of fun, really enjoyed it. And I thought, I want something a little bigger, a little more room, like you say. Planned on doing more overnighting. We did overnight in that boat on the water, and it was great. And I love that. And it was very, very easy for 2 people to set up, very easy for 2 people to raise the mast. But again, when you get bigger boats, the bigger the boat, the harder it is to get it set up. If you're just going to use it on a trailer as a day sailor. But the 19 is still doable. But that's as big as I'd ever want to go for a boat that you're going to put together and take apart and take it home. Yeah.
So. And would you say that that's a boat that someone could raise the mast by themselves, or like you could on a 16, for example? Could you do that? Because I think people might want to know, okay, well, if I go to a 19 foot, what am I talking about labor wise? What am I looking at here?
Yeah, I did not feel comfortable raising it myself, but as you know, Tom, who's at the sailboat shop in Arizona, he just lifted it up and put up the mast. There's no big deal. So it just depends on. I'm not weak, but again, I guess I'm not. I don't know. I it's not something I guess I wanted to do by myself.
Right.
So.
Well, and I actually just now thought too of something else with respect to the 16 and the 19. I think so on the Legacy, for example, there's no backstay. So you have the forestay and the 2 side stays. And I'm assuming that the 16 was the same. Is that correct? Was there a backstay in the 16?
I don't remember. I don't remember there being a backstay on this. On the. I'm sorry. You said the 16 or the 19?
Yeah, on the 16.
Yeah, no, there was no backstay on the 16.
Okay. But moving up to the 19, what was the configuration with that? Was there a backstay? And
I don't think there was a backstay on the 19.
And then one side stay each side, port and starboard, or what were there?
There was one, I believe, from what I remember.
So looking between those 2 boats, obviously more room. how would you say that boat handled and sailed compared to the 16 in your opinion?
The 19 was designed by a different person than the 16. And I think they call it more of an hourglass shaped hull.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a flatter hull. And so it definitely sailed flatter than the 16 did.
Okay.
Which is interesting because it's the 23 felt like a big 16, but the 19 sailed different than the 16 or the 23, and it sailed a lot flatter.
Yeah.
And again, I love that boat. I mean, it was great. So
yeah. And then
we overnighted in it. It was very comfortable. In fact, we did our ASA course on that boat. And
oh wow. You trailer it? You trailered it to where the ASA was taught?
No. That the 19, now the 16 I kept at the house here. The 19 I kept in dry storage at my place down in Arizona with the mast up.
Right.
And so we just, again, just putting it in the water. It was very easy to put in the water, and it was light enough to, pull it out of the water with I have a 1/2-ton pickup truck.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay. So,
yeah,
it was pretty easy.
Okay. And then with that boat, I'm assuming that you probably, as with the 16, probably just had Hank on head sail, right? Not a furler?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I don't like roller furling, but that's me.
Well, I see a lot of people converting the 19s, especially to roller furling, some 16s and some legacies as well. But yeah, I mean, I think, let's just be honest, the deck space on my legacy and on the 16 is pretty limited. And so, if you are, at least for me, when I was out on the water, and if I needed to go drop the sail, it could be a little, for me, sometimes challenging because there wasn't a whole lot of room to maneuver on deck. Now on the 19 and the 23, obviously you're going to have a lot more room, more real estate, as people sometimes say. I like that. And so it does kind of give you a feeling a little bit more stability. But with the roller furling, I'm, as you know, with my 23, I got that equipment with my boat, and I'm still trying to decide how I feel about it, because sometimes I feel like it's kind of more trouble than it's worth. But I will say, recently somebody commented on one of my videos that if it wasn't for the roller furling system, now this is for a Com-Pac 23 though, that they would not be able to single hand that boat. So I'm curious, because I'm going to jump into the Com-Pac 23 that you used to own now, because I think she also had Hank on head sail, right?
Correct.
And if I want to say, I think that you used to sail that boat by yourself sometimes, right?
No problem. I sailed it a fair amount by myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of good for people to know, because while the roller furler can, everybody talks about all lines leading aft, and so you don't have to go up on deck, and there is a lot of something to be said about that sort of thing. For example, on my 23, I don't know if this was on yours, I do have to go up to the mast to raise the mainsail, which, if you think about it, I don't have an autopilot, and my husband has to be on the tiller. Otherwise, I couldn't do it, so I kind of, for me, I think about with the way my boat's rigged currently, I would have an issue single-handing the boat, because there would be nobody on the tiller while I went up to raise the mainsail. So
that's what tiller tamers are for.
Ah, good idea. Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, I need to get one of those then, I think. Did you use one of those frequently on any of your boats?
Best $175 you're going to spend.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well,
and you just click it. You just click it, and it stays in place. And now on my 23, I could raise it from the cockpit, but I had to kind of bring it down from the bow of the boat. So I would just lock the tiller, walk up front, bring the sail down, and walk back to the cockpit, and it was great.
Yeah. Okay. So with your 19, did you have all lines leading after? Were you how did you raise the mainsail on that boat?
Oh gosh. I can't remember how that was. I mean, I never had any problem single handling it, and I
Okay.
never had a problem raising the jib. So the lines must have been leading back. Maybe I'm on my iPad right now, and I have a series of pictures for the 19, and I don't know if I can't do that and do a zoom at the same time because I can go look, but I can tell you later how I did it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I never had any problem raising the sail in the 19.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the things that some people do sometimes also on the 16s, and I think on the 19s, maybe the 23s too, is I've heard a lot of people in the Com-Pac Yacht Owners Forum that we're both on talk about installing downhauls for their head sails so they don't have to go up on deck to drop the sail, which is something that, I thought about doing on my Legacy, but never got around to doing it.
Now, I thought about it a lot of times doing it, but never got around to doing it. I thought it'd be great. But
I actually have a diagram that Jerry, one of the owners at Com-Pac, he sent to me of how Com-Pac will install a downhaul system on when someone wants to order a boat and they want that on the boat. He sent me a picture. It was actually of a Legacy too, of where all the equipment is and how it's set up. So in case people are interested, it does involve drilling, which I'm not comfortable doing on my boat. But if somebody else might be comfortable doing it, might give them some ideas how they can outfit their boat. I don't understand that
because it seems to me like you just attach a block to the base of the jib and run a line to the jib and pull it, have it go to the cockpit and pull it down when you're ready to bring it down. I mean, it seems like it'd be real easy, but
yeah, you would think. I think so. I don't know. Yeah, I definitely don't feel comfortable drilling though, because any more holes in the boat is just another place for water to get in and all that.
Right. I wouldn't drill holes in a boat.
So I guess going back
to one thing about boats, when you drill holes, water goes in, because boats are in the water.
Yeah. As somebody once told me, a yacht broker I worked with up in Minnesota, he said, you want to keep the people in, but keep the water out of boats.
Exactly.
But exactly. You're 19 with that boat. I know you said you did do some camping out on that one. I'm assuming there was room for the porta potty. Did you have a stove on board or anything like that you would cook with, or?
We had a little camp stove. We had a camp stove, but we used it in the cockpit in the morning to make coffee and stuff. But
did those
not inside?
They didn't have that slide out tray like on the 23?
No.
Okay. Yeah. For some reason, I thought the 19s had that, and no galley either, no little portable sink in that either, right?
No, okay. I did see where somebody did that, but I didn't do that.
Okay. All right. Well, are there any other things you would want people to know about the Com-Pac 19?
The only negative, and I don't consider it a major negative, but on the 19 with the compression post being 6'2", it was took a little bit of yoga to get into that front area for the to sleep. But I mean, it was a great boat. We loved it.
Did it have a full V berth in that boat? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And then I'm trying to remember that boat, the cockpit benches are I know in the Legacy, I think they're 6 feet, and I'm assuming it's probably similar with the 16 Com-Pac 16, but I wasn't sure how big or how long those cockpit benches are. So how many people would you say, adults, could you fit in a cockpit of a 19 comfortably sailing?
Oh, I'd say us and maybe another couple would be ideal, but you could certainly do more. But we never did. And that was one of the reasons why I kept on buying bigger boat, was to bring friends, but then we never, COVID and all that hit. And so we never did that. So only once on the 23 did we have a bunch of people on it, but the 19 never did.
Yeah. But on the 16 though, realistically speaking, if you want to
just the 16, I'd say comfortably 2 people. Have you ever taken more than 2 on your 16?
I will tell you that we tried one time to take my dad. We ended up having engine issues, so we weren't able to go out. And I was kind of glad because, while the cockpit seats or benches are 6 feet which is generous. I will say the way that, the layout of where the main sheet is, where the jib sheets are, it did get a little bit, even with just the two of us, sometimes congested. And so what ended up happening for us, at least, is someone would be on the tiller, and then they would also, because the main sheet would be aft of the tiller or behind you. So you'd have the helm, you'd have the main sheet, and then the other person, typically what I would do is I'd sit in the hole, as I called it, which was basically I'd sit in the companionway area and then just stay there so that I was out of the way of the helmsman, and I would work the jib sheets. And that was kind of the system that we developed when we would sail on our boat. So realistically, even though Com-Pac, I think, advertises that, on the brochure for the Legacy, at least, I think there's 3 adults, which you could do. It's just that I kind of think that you kind of get in each other's way. And my husband and I would get in each other's way a little bit when we would be on our Legacy. But you figure it out, right? You figure out where things are, and where once everybody's got their role in place, then it kind of is. It's not really a big of a deal, but yeah, if you're going to take friends out, it would be, you could do it, but I just think it might not be as comfortable, I guess. But
it worked out pretty good I mean, Susan, one of Suzanne's favorite thing when we go sailing is to get going, and then she goes in and takes a nap. So,
that's awesome.
So it works out great. And then when we get ready to take the sail down and everything, then she comes out and helps, and so it's I don't know, it works out. I've never felt like any of the boats we've ever had where the two of us didn't have plenty of room for what we needed to do. So
yeah. And on that boat too, you're 19. What size engine did you use on that boat?
I actually used the 2.3 Honda.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And
it was great. That was great. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're not going to set any speed records, but again, there's a whole speed, and we sail on lakes. I don't know what it would be trying to go against the tide or a lot of wind, but I never felt like. I mean, that little motor, to me, it was amazing. So.
Right. Okay. And then as far as when you would set that boat up, I know you said you had it, I think, at dry dock, but as far like how long would you say compared to the 16? Is it much more time to get that boat ready, put the mast up, get everything rigged? Okay, so it's not really that much of a difference time wise.
Right.
Okay. Well, now let's go talk about the 23, because there's definitely a difference time wise. I
think the difference between a 16 and a 19 and then jumping to a 23 is exponential. The difference between the 19 and the 23 is huge.
Yeah. And then let's talk about some of the ways for you, and then I might chime in for me moving from a Legacy to a 23. But I'm curious because I know I'll just spill the beans. You have sold your 23 recently, not that long ago at least. And, there was a reason for that, or maybe reasons. So can you share some of the reasons why you thought, as much as you loved that boat, because I know you did, why you thought maybe it might be best to move her on to another captain?
Well, for Suzanne and I, we're not getting any younger.
None of us are.
And
that's something we all have in common.
The mast on the 23 is a lot more than the 19. And so definitely takes two. I don't know if I'd ever want to try and do it by myself, but I know there are people that do. But even with the two of us, I don't know. It felt like that mast could get away from me. It never did, never came close to, but still, there's a lot of weight to that mast. And
it's substantial.
I have to tell you, it was somewhat stressful for me in the spring and the fall to put that mast up and take it down.
Yeah. So what, if I remember correctly, did you you did have some sort of a mast rigging system with that boat, right? Didn't you use your trailer winch or something?
Yes, I used the winch that was on the trailer,
Okay.
and again, she said she never even felt like there was anything at all to, she'd just crank it, and she said she couldn't even feel the weight of the mast or anything like that. So I'd be up
Right.
on the boat trying to keep the mast steady, which again, it was like kind of like, whoa, this thing could get away from me. But then what I did was I rigged up. I don't know what you call them. I'm just going to call them a couple of lines to form kind of a triangle on the mast and to the sides of the boat, and that
Yep.
seemed to make a huge difference. The mast felt fairly, very stable doing it that way, but it's still, I just I don't know. It just seemed like it was a lot of more than I wanted to mess with for what we did, because in Arizona. The season's the winter, so I would put it in dry storage over the winter, and then in the summer I take it back to the house under a carport. So before the season start, we would get the boat ready, take it out to the lake, and then in the fall, in the spring, bring it back to the house. And it's a big boat. I mean, even trailering it was.
What tow vehicle did you use for that one, by the way?
Just the same thing, a half-ton pickup truck, which was no problem, other than it's a big boat. I mean, I would say it's a large 23 footer. It feels a lot bigger than 23 feet. So
yeah, it definitely does. I agree. I think it displaces 3,000 pounds. I could be wrong, but I think
like
it's.
That.
And then the Com-Pac Legacy is about 1,000, if I remember.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the 16 is close to that.
Yeah, I mean, the 16 was like a piece of cake. You just throw in the back of the truck, you go, you don't even know it's back there.
Yeah.
But the 23, you kind of knew it was back there, and it's a lot of boat. But and I don't want to come across negative at all. It was a great boat. I loved it. You just have to realize that you're getting into big boats when you have the 23.
And this is also a boat that is not unlike, that is rather unlike a 16 and a 19 and a Legacy. Whereas, these are boats that you can, weekend to weekend go to different lakes if you want to be that kind of person who's exploring. With the 23, you're not going to be doing that. Boat is. Go ahead.
The 23, and again, Suzanne accused me of piddling, but it would take me a couple hours to get the 23 set up to go into the water, and a couple hours to take it down, to tie it all up, secure it, and all that stuff, get it ready to go on the road. So it was just, even though you still have a mast and you still have a tiller and you still have a boom, it just took a lot longer to put it all up and take it all down each season. So
yeah, that's something that I learned with our boat too, my 23. Compared to my Legacy, I could have that boat. We could get to the marina in 20 minutes. I could have that boat. Once we stopped the truck, got out, got on the boat, we could raise the mast, get the rigging on, and drop the boat in the water or splash the boat, and all in about 20 minutes we were on the dock. And then, or if you didn't have a dock and you just wanted to go sailing from there, but usually we had more gear and whatnot. But it's interesting too, when we would get to the dock to take the Legacy out, it just, everything went quickly, it just, and then when I got my 23, it feels like it takes, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times as long, maybe even longer, to get all the sheets ready, to get everything secure. I don't know what it is. It just, maybe because it's still a newer boat for me and I'm learning the ropes, pardon the pun, but I missed the little bit of the ease of getting on and going with the Legacy like I did. It was just like you get on and you go. With the 23, it's like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, And, but, like you said, they're awesome, incredible boats. And when you're on that boat, like I grew up sailing on a boat that was almost 27 feet. And my goodness, my boat, my 23, feels as big to me as that other boat did when I was a kid. That 27-foot boat. It's remarkable, the room that there is on the boat. But now, getting back to
I mean,
the
it may be psychological, because
yeah.
I put the 23 in the water by myself, and I put it back on the trailer by myself, and but it just, it's just a lot more boat.
And I will say too, it requires a little bit more physical strength when you are sailing the boat. So for example, when you are tacking around in the Legacy, which I'm assuming is the same with the 16, probably the 19, when the jibs head sails going back and forth across the deck and you're sheeting in, not such a big deal really, on the old muscles, as they say. But when I was on the 23 this past season, you got to get the winch handle out. It requires, and I'm no weakling, so I'm pretty strong, I think, and it was physically a little bit. I was surprised. I didn't think it would be quite as physically demanding, I guess, as it is. And the same with furling in the head sail. I'm sorry, unfurling the head sail. That requires a little bit of. You got to use the winch for that, and just a little bit more coordinating going on. And again, I think it's, for me at least, and I don't know if you felt this way when you moved from your 19 to the 23, about, just things are in different places and set up maybe a smidge differently here and there. So yeah, I'm hoping that next season it'll be a little bit more seamless. But I definitely, I would be lying if I said that I didn't miss my Legacy, because it was just easier,
Right.
and less time.
Yeah.
I felt like I spend more time sailing and less time fussing, if that makes sense.
That's what they say.
Yeah. So let's see, what else can we talk about the 23 real quick? I do want to make mention, because I did have a 23 before the 23 I currently have.
Right.
I had a 23D, as in diesel. So I had a 1990 23D. So that boat had a diesel inboard engine. It also had been outfitted with not the standard galley, but the owner had made some refits for coastal cruising with the galley system, and as far as the sink and the stove and all that good stuff. With your 23 and my current 23, I believe we both had, I want to say, standard versions of the boat, stock versions of the boat. Where did you have the slide out sink and the slide out
Yes.
tray to put a stove? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what I
Yeah,
had.
I almost burnt the boat down, as a matter of fact, because the stove, the first time I used the stove, it was an old, the original stove, and I don't think the original owner ever used it, and I lit it and the whole thing went on fire.
Oh my goodness. Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow. That would be scary.
So
Yeah.
Needless to say, I got another stove for it.
Right. And I think that boat is kind of pretty ergonomic, how it's laid out in the interior. That's one of the things that I really like about it, is that you do have there's definitely areas where the porta potty can go. There's sleeping area in the forward cabin with the B berth, and the settee area, which I haven't slept on my boat yet, but it seems like it would be very comfy. And then also, because you can slide those, either the galley sink or the tray that has the stove. My sink is on the starboard side, and then the stove tray is on the port side, and you can get them out of the way, by sliding them in, right? Which is, I'm sure, what your boat must have had too, right?
Yes.
How about under your companionway steps to access your bilge? On the Legacy, there is no bilge, and so you don't have to worry about it. But on this boat, I've been a little bit obsessed with checking the bilge all season long. Did you access it usually through the companionway steps as well, to check to make sure you didn't have any water intrusion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never did. It was always perfectly dry.
Yeah. Mine's been pretty dry too. What sort of sails would you use on your 23?
I had a main, a jib, and a Genoa, and I never used the Genoa. I'm kind of a simple kind of guy. I just like to go out and go sailing, and so I just never. I kept on saying, "Well, I'm going to try out this Genoa," but I just never did. So I was perfectly happy just sailing it with what I had on it. And the other thing that was great that I might mention is when I did store it. between sails is I had a sail bag for the mainsail and also a sail bag for the jib.
Oh
So
yeah, I remember
so
that.
the jib would go down, I'd put the sail back on, and then when I took the boat out again, I'd put it in the water, and the jib was already attached and everything was ready to go. It only took like less than 5 minutes to get the boat ready to go in the water.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess, is there anything, I'm trying to think what else, our 23s did not have inboards, unlike my first 23. So I think you had a propane engine, I remember, I think on your boat, right? For your
Yeah,
outboard.
I actually tried out the 2.3 Honda on the 23 and it worked.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
so
Okay.
so it pushed it around too. I had the propane motor, and which the propane motor was great once it started, but it seems like it just took a number of pulls to get it started for the first time. But then once it started, it was great. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we have a 6 horsepower on ours, which has reverse, which is really nice. I never did master the swiveling around on the legacy outboard. Yeah. And with these boats too, no centerboard, just a shoal
right.
draft keel. One of the things that I wanted to let people know, because I live in an area where, it's not year round sailing. It's not warm here in the winter time. In fact, we get very freezing cold temperatures. And because these keels are made out of concrete on the Com-Pacs, there's a chance that if there is water in the bilge, if it freezes, there's potential for the keel to crack as a result of that. And
I've heard
this is
that.
it. Yeah, this is information I actually got directly from Com-Pac. So they, definitely tell you, yeah, make sure the bilge is bone dry when you haul out, or after you haul out, or both, and that way there's no water in there to freeze during the off season. So that's one of the things that I'm looking into. I got to go back down and check one more time, because we're going to get a bunch of rain this week, and I actually opted to shrink wrap my boat too, and because my forward hatch leaks. So I'm really hoping that everything is watertight and no more water can get in, and I don't have to worry about any freezing in the concrete keel. That
Yeah,
makes me very nervous.
yeah, it seems like these boats leak, or they will leak.
Yeah, the portholes on my boat also have some issues. I'm going to replace the gaskets on mine. So how about we go to the fourth Com-Pac that you have owned? You want to tell us about your Sun Cat?
Yeah, so I went the other way. I went from the 23 back to the Sun Cat. And I really like the Sun Cat. Not that I like it any more than any of the other boats, but I've loved them all for different reasons. But the Sun Cat, it feels like a big 16 and a small 23.
Yep.
And they say, I was reading once where they say the sleeping area in the Sun Cat is larger than the 19. I don't know if that's, I never measured it. I can't say. And we haven't slept in the Sun Cat yet, other than trying it out. But yeah, now that I have the Sun Cat, compared after the 23, it's like it's a piece of cake. You just put it in the back, hitch it up, throw it in the water, and bring it, and the mast goes up it's just as easy as the 16. It's great. It's got a little pin that you put in, and the mast is hinged. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things I really, really like about the Sun Cat.
And
but
so
again, I can't say that I like it each boat I like for different reasons. And so, and I'm really loving the Sun Cat. So,
well, one thing people should know, in case they don't know, what's the biggest difference between a Sun Cat and the 16 and the 19 and the 23, besides size, is that it has
one sail.
Right. So it's a cat boat. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's, and I have to admit, I've gotten into the whole vibe of the cat boat stuff. I just finished building I just sent you a picture of it. I just finished building a model of a cat boat, and I read some cat boat books and stuff. And
cool.
I'm kind of liking the New England vibe of the whole thing. And so, it's interesting how a cat boat got named a cat boat, because evidently when a cat boat was originally designed for fishing. And so when the fishermen would come into port, all the cats would be hanging around wanting to eat their fish, and so that's how it got called the cat boat. So
Interesting.
yeah. So I mean, I've been really enjoying it. It's a piece of cake to move around and set up and all that. So yeah.
Here's the $1 million question though. What's the biggest difference with sailing a sloop compared to sailing the cat boat then? Like in your mind, how was that learning curve to go from sailing a sloop to sailing a cat rig boat?
Well, I mean, the only difference is you don't have a jib. And so you just raise the sail and you go. It kind of reminds me of my old sunfish from when I was a kid.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, that
those
it
are
was just
lantine
that,
rigged, or I can't remember
yeah,
what they call that. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and just the one sail, you put it up, and it's just, I will admit that I kind of miss the sailing, if you will, of the two sails, and
Mhm.
some people even say it's not a real sailboat unless it has two sails. But
Oh,
it's just great. I mean, you just put up the sail, you go, sit back, and relax, and it's good. So, and when you come about, you just have one sail to mess with, and it's just, yeah, I, it's great.
I think the thing that for me I always found a little perplexing about that boat is that you have the throat and what's the other one called? There's two lines that you have to use
Oh, the
to,
gaff.
and I can't remember, but
Yeah,
yeah, it seems like there would be a little coordinating involved to be able to, I don't
there
know.
is there is because you've got the gaff boom, and you're raising the sail, and you're kind of raising the gaff boom at the same time, and you got to kind of coordinate that. But that's no big deal. You just put it up, and then, yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy.
How about how that boat sails flatter, or is it more tippy, or how does that compare to the others?
I think it sails a little flatter because it's what, cat boats are wider
Sure.
than
Yep.
than others, and so yeah, it seems like it sails a lot flatter than the other ones.
Yeah, I think that the rule of thumb with cat boats is, if I understand, the beam should be half the length. I
Right.
don't know if I'm not sure if that's how it is. Is that how it is with the Sun Cat? What's
No,
the
not
Sun
so
Cat?
much. Yeah,
I think
I
it's what, a
think
7 foot
I think
beam,
something. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah,
and
yeah.
what's the length on it?
17,
Right. Okay.
17
Yep.
feet. So
Okay.
I
Yep.
think, I think that compact, there is kind of a little bit of a modified uh, cat boat, but yeah, that's good. Like I said, I don't stress on. We're going to go down to Arizona in a couple of weeks, and I'm really excited about getting it out to the lake again. And I'm not stressing with the mast. I'm not stressing with towing it out there. I'm not having to repack four wheels. I only have to repack two wheels, and
Yeah.
it's just
True.
a lot simpler. And
Yeah.
but again, I don't want to leave anybody with the impression that it's better. It's just different, and I mean, I like simple, but I love the 23 too. So, but I'm enjoying the Sun Cat a lot right
You think you're going to get a Horizon Cat next? That's the next step up.
now. I don't know. I almost bought another 16 this summer, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. I don't know. I've actually thought about getting another sunfish someday. That was a lot of fun. But as your kid, the sunfish is great because half the fun of owning a sunfish is capsizing it. And as you
Yeah.
get old, I don't know if capsizing nearly has the attraction that you did as a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah, no, I didn't even like it as a kid. I got to be honest with you. And I would say definitely because I was thinking about getting a laser last year.
Yeah.
And then I realized, that's a lot more kind of athletic sailing than I think that I'm really wanting to do right now.
Yeah. Yeah, these boats, when we were kids, they were our sailing boats, they were our fishing boats, they were our submarines, they were our battleships. I mean, they were, all that stuff that we did
Yeah,
as a kid. I mean, it
totally.
was a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
now as you get older, you do, some of that stuff probably is not a good idea. I keep telling people I'm still 25 years old with a lot of anniversaries on me.
Okay, well, Ken, I know this has probably been taken up a lot of your valuable time to speak with me about all this, but
no problem.
I just wanted to, before we sign off, just aside from thanking you profusely for your time and all the information you've shared,
Sure.
I also just wanted to on one closing note on the Sun Cat. Are you using that same 2.3 horsepower engine on that boat?
Yes.
Or what sort?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Same.
Okay.
Matter of fact, that's my project this weekend is I got to change the oil on it and get it ready for the season. And I mean, the nice thing about the 2.3 is you can carry it. It only weighs 29 pounds.
Yeah.
Whereas
sure.
I had on the 23, I had a 5 horsepower, and while I could lift it, it weighed 60 pounds.
Yeah.
It's not something that you just throw in the back of the truck and throw it on the boat without thinking about it. That little Honda motor is just great. It's just it doesn't weigh anything, and so it works out great.
And there's no galley on that Sun Cat either, right? It's
well, there kind of is.
I
actually took all of we have all the dishes that we had on the 23 and the little stove that we had on the 23. We have all that's on the Sun Cat.
Okay.
And so it kind of sort of we do the sailing club I belong to. We do a lot of raft ups, and I haven't done one with the Sun Cat yet. I did it with the 23, but I'm really looking forward to getting out. And there's a what's the name of that grill? Those round ball looking grills that you see a lot of.
The egg one.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I can put that on the back of the Sun Cat, and we're gonna cook some tube steaks on it. And then I've got my little butane stove that I can put in the cockpit to heat up. I don't drink coffee, but Suzanne does. She can drink her coffee.
Sure.
And we have for heat, if it gets too cold in the wintertime, we have one of those little propane heaters that you can.
Oh, nice.
We don't have it on at nighttime, but in the morning or in the evening, we have it on, and it heats up the cabin real nice. And so
wow, that sounds great.
To me, I was down in Arizona a couple weeks ago getting the boat ready, getting it all polished and pretty looking. And I was sitting in the cockpit, just looking at it, going, this just feels a lot like the 23 does. So
interesting.
There's really nothing that the 23 didn't have. So
yeah, interesting. And last but not least, to mention that if people want to learn more about Com-Pacs, obviously you can go to the compacyachts.com website, or what I would also recommend, as you are also a member, is the Com-Pac Yacht Owners Association forum. You don't have to you can just lurk if you want to, if you don't want to join as a member. But I think the people there are really helpful. Everybody likes to kind of share ideas. There's all sorts of information that I've gotten from, like, how much horsepower of an engine can I put on the back of my 23 to how do I do a downhaul for my jib on my 16? There's all sorts of great information, and people are just really nice, so I would recommend people check it out.
I find sailors to all be very, very, I don't think I've met an unfriendly sailor yet.
And the other thing is we all tend to want to help each other. If we need help, someone's going to be there to help you out. So that's really
when I was when my 23 was at dry storage, I'd be sitting there putting it away, and if somebody was out there, every time somebody was out there, they'd always stop and ask me if I needed help. So
that's really nice. That's cool. Well, I cannot thank you enough again for all of your time. I think that
I hope it was helpful.
Oh yeah, I love talking to you as always, and you always know so much. If people wanted to reach out to you, if they had questions, I think that if they join the forum, there is a messaging system on the forum, so people can always reach you there. Would you be willing to share your handle?
Sure. It's Ken J. Space J, I believe, is what it is.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. And then you could also message me, of course, but I'm Seashell on the forum. But yeah, I think both Ken and I would be happy to answer questions about our boats and help you get out on the water if that's what you're looking to do.
Yeah, the other site that I look at, I might mention, is Trailer Sailor.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, thank you
All
so
right.
much, Ken. I really
You bet.
appreciate it. Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of our very first podcast. I'm excited to bring you more content so that we can continue learning all things sailing. Until next time, fair winds.